This video contains loose discussion of suicide and self-harm topics. While I don't go into explicit detail, viewer discretion is still advised. Spoilers ahead for volumes 8 and 9 of RWBY. Ever since 2020, Rooster Teeth has been prefacing RWBY chapters with warnings, primarily for the select episodes that might be hazardous to people with photosensitive epilepsy. Regardless of the fact that it took 8 volumes to reach that point, I'd say it's a very good thing. But that changed a bit with the season finale, when the warning cited themes of death that may be distressing. Chapter 14 contains an instance of self-sacrifice in which Penny, who is already mortally wounded, makes the choice to speed up the process with Jean's help. This choice had nothing to do with her mental state, but rather it's driven entirely by the maiden powers held within her. If she were to die by Cinder's hand, that's where the power would go. This action never read to me as suicide, but clearly someone on the production staff felt the concept and imagery bore enough resemblance that the warning was necessary. They even put a hotline in the episode's description. Some discussions arose in the community forums about whether or not the warning should have been more verbose, but those talks died down after a short period, likely because the contents of the chapter were relatively tame. With the 2 most recent episodes of Volume 9, however, these talks have been circulating again, much louder than usual. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that these chapters have contained some of the most direct commentaries on suicide and self-harm the show has ever had. To clarify, I'm not making this video to discuss whether or not Rooster Teeth's depiction of the subject matter is respectful or effective, since the plot point in Volume 9 is still irresolute. I'm not even here to express any opinion on the show itself. I'm here to talk exclusively about the warning, because this is what appeared in front of Volume 8's finale back in 2020. And this is the warning we've gotten for the past 2 chapters of Volume 9. This episode contains themes which some viewers may find distressing. Not even themes of death, just themes, and nary a hotline in sight. RWBY as a series has been covering dark themes for years now, but its depiction of suicide has been scarce to non-existent. So when I saw a content warning citing themes that may be distressing, my impression was that the chapter was just plain dark and not appropriate to show children. Therein lies the problem. Because the descriptor was so vague, I believe plenty of people would stumble into these chapters expecting the darkness of volumes past, fully unprepared for potentially triggering content. So why did Rooster Teeth elect to slap such a vague warning on top of the show's most explicit depiction of suicide yet? My best guess is that it's an attempt to avoid content spoilers, because mentioning these themes as a preface to Chapter 8 specifically does somewhat spoil a major character decision. However, I'm under the firm impression that a thematic spoiler is a good price to pay in exchange for keeping your audience safe. One thing that came to mind was Doki Doki Literature Club, since I recall similar talk around that game's rise in popularity. DDLC was a game that dealt with strong depictions of suicide and self-harm, so a content warning at the beginning was something of a necessity. But Doki Doki's claim to fame was in its position as a psychological horror disguised as a slice-of-life dating simulator, and it could be argued that such a forewarning spoils the game's true nature before it even starts. As it currently stands, it's virtually impossible to play the game without at least some notion of what it's all about. I even remember people booting up the game off-screen before getting their friends and partners to play it so they could skip the warning. Whether or not you agree with that choice is entirely up to you, but at least in that case, the warning existed for everybody, and the onus was placed on the players to decide what to do with it. Yes, removing the warning would improve the element of surprise in the game, but it would also have the potential to put vulnerable members of the audience at risk. As a content creator myself, I couldn't even imagine how devastating it must feel for even one audience member to take action on that front, motivated by the media I created. For that reason alone, I would rather spoil a story beat than risk that possibility. I believe studios and content creators have a responsibility to protect their fans, and these vague warnings don't serve that purpose. If your disclaimer doesn't appropriately warn people, they may as well not exist in the first place. This is what I think the warning should have been, but ultimately, this is the one we got. To reiterate, this isn't a commentary on anything depicted in the chapters themselves. I absolutely love Volume 9, and I know plenty of others feel the same. So if there's even a remote chance that Rooster Teeth hears this, please know that being specific in your warnings will not diminish people's enjoyment of the show. If anything, it'll allow sensitive audience members to have a safer and more comfortable experience once they know what to be prepared for. That's just my take though, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Let's open up this discussion in the comments. And if you're going through a rough time, just a reminder that there's always help. There will always be people to have your back. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I hope you have a wonderful day. Catch you later.